Yeah, hi, good morning to everyone. So let's start our session now. Yes, sir. So in yesterday's session, we completed for loop as part of the looping statements. So why we are going to use the looping statements in a programming language and what is the purpose of looping statements? We understood it is. So the purpose of looping statements is all about executing a logic continuously or repeatedly until a condition is satisfied. So you will apply some conditions, and based on that conditions, some logic has to be executed continuously or repeatedly. So until that condition is satisfied. So in such kind of scenarios, we will use the looping statements. When we will use the decision making statement means when you want to execute a specific logic based on a condition, then decision making statements. When you want to execute a logic repeatedly until a condition is satisfied, then you will go for the looping statements. Then you will go for the looping statements. So as part of the looping, we have total 3 in Java language: for, while, do while. Okay. And we have one more also called as enhanced for loop or for each loop. I'll explain this after the arrays, along with the arrays. So, but first we have to understand for loop and then we can understand easily for each also. So as part of the for loop yesterday, I explained you how to remember for loop and how to write the for loops based on a requirement. What are the components available as part of the for loop? I explained. So it's all about when you're defining the for loop, the first line is more important. So the logic what you will write inside the for loop is the logic what you want to execute repeatedly. So that logic you will write inside the for loop body. So that means the logic will be executed again and again. So based on conditions what you given. So then again as part of the for loop first line, there are 3 components available: initialization, condition, increment or decrement operation. So what is the initialization point here? It is what is your starting value? What is your starting point? So that is what representing here it is. From where you are starting, the logic should start from which value? Starting value simply. And this condition part is all about at what level the for loop should break. That means at what level on which condition. So once you will write some condition, once the condition is satisfied, then for loop will be executed. If condition is not satisfied, that means condition result became false, then for loop will not execute. So that means you will write a condition here, and based on that condition, your for loop will be executed number of times. So what is your condition? At what time for loop should be break? I mean, at what time for loop execution, the body of for loop should be, or the body of for loop execution should be start, that you will define as part of the condition. And second thing is increment or decrement operation. So what is the increment or decrement operation is whether you want to go in the forward direction or backward direction. So that means in an ascending order you are moving or descending order you are moving. So that means you want to repeatedly do. Repeatedly means, so again there are always 2 ways. One is you are just moving, keep on moving in a forward direction. One is maybe you are starting and you are moving backward direction. So generally we will have two types of directions, right? So one is incremental direction, second one is decremental direction. So based on your requirement, you will have always either increment or decrement operations. So based on that, you have to define the operations, and then you will write the logic, and that logic will be executed. The number of times the logic will be executed based on the condition what you given. So the condition is more important in this section. Please remember that. Okay. So that is what we taken, and I explained you how for loop will be executed yesterday. Initialization will happen only once. After that, this will be repeated again and again, again and again. So that's why it is called as looping. Condition checks. If it is true, for loop will be executed, body will be executed, and then it will go for the increment or decrement operation. Similarly, once it is increment is done, then again condition check, then true, body executed, then again increment. Then again condition check, body executed, increment or decrement. Then again condition check. If it is true, body executed. Whenever condition check is false, condition result is false, condition result became false, then it will, the Java will exit the for loop execution. So the for loop execution is completed with that once the condition is false. So based on that, we defined a lot of examples yesterday. Okay. And I'm not going to discuss more about again examples. So let's see what is the real advantage of for loops. You will understand once we are learning the arrays concept, looping state. We have a framework called as collection framework. So as part of collection framework also, we will understand the real advantage of the looping statements. Okay, fine. So now let's move to the next one called as while loop. While loop. Okay. Second one is while loop and third one is do while. So there is a small difference between while and do while. So we will understand that one also. In interviews also they will ask you what is the difference between while and do while. Then sometimes they will ask what is the difference between for loop and while loop. That means their intention is when you will choose for loop, when you will choose while loop. That is how the questions will come. So first understand the concept and then we will see examples. Then we will realize at what scenarios you have to use for loop, at what scenarios you have to go for while loop. We can realize. But with my experience, I am telling you, the most of the times we will use for loops only. But even nowadays, the loops are being, the usage of loops is reduced from Java 8 version onwards. In a real-time application point of view, I'm telling you guys, before Java 7, people used to write a lot of loops to iterate some data, especially we have some concepts like arrays and then followed by collection framework. So that means you will have like list to set map, something like that. So these are all, to work with all these areas, you need always loops knowledge. So until Java 7, before Java 8, so without, to work with these areas, to work with these concepts, 100% you need loops knowledge, and you have to use only loops concept to iterate the data from this. But from Java 8 version onwards, what happened is due to some Java 8 features, especially stream feature, whatever it is, stream API, whatever it is, yeah, especially stream API only. So because of this new feature which is included in the Java 8, so writing loops in real-time applications is reduced. So that means there are some alternative solutions available in the stream API, and that is giving more advantage, more impact, more performance point of view also. So that's why people are using stream API when people are dealing with this kind of data. So we will also see what is stream API, how it is replacing the loops concepts with respect to stream API. We will understand that things also in our upcoming classes. Once we are done with collection, then I'll go with the stream API. So then we will see that. But at the same time, having knowledge of loops is more important, because when you are attending the interviews or written exams, they will not expect you are going to write programs by using stream API. They will expect always writing some loops, basic loops like for loop, while loop, like that. So to execute some problem statement and everything. So that's why please have the knowledge. And at the same time, nowadays stream API is more important in place of loops. That is how real-time applications are operating nowadays. Okay. Anyway, let's see while loop. We will see these things later point of time. This is just a heads up I given to you. Okay. So see here. Now what is while loop? Similar to for loop only. There is a small difference will be there. So what is a while loop? Just see here. So first let me give the syntax. Now everything is same. Whenever it is a loop means logic is executed. The overall statement is whenever it comes under the looping statements, logic executed repeatedly until a condition result is false or condition is broken. So simple. In a simple general English point of view, I'm telling logic will be executed repeatedly until a block of logic. Logic means a block of statements executed repeatedly until a condition is broken. Broken in the sense condition is not satisfied. Condition result became false in Java point of view. So when it comes to while loop, what is the syntax? See here it is. While is a keyword. So what here? While is a keyword. Fine. So that means while will be used always for to define the while loops. And the syntax, real syntax of while is sorry. The real syntax of while is condition. Where you are writing condition in the sense here you are writing the condition. And followed by you have to write curly braces means this is starting of while loop, this is ending of while loop. Okay. Starting of while loop, end of while loop. Okay, fine. And then inside while loop, based on the condition, you will write the logic. So whatever the logic has to be executed repeatedly, that logic you will write here. So that will be executed repeatedly. Right? So the logic what you want to execute repeatedly based on the condition result, that you will write here. So then, fine. And here we have one more concept called as what it is. Okay, fine. Now, for example, if I given a requirement and I ask you to print values from 1 to 10, a simple example 1 to 10 by using while loop. So then how can we do that? So we know that condition is what? So in this case, as per our analysis, starting value is 1. Ending value is 10. And you are going in the increment way. So it's all about increment way you are going. So right. So then if it is for loop, you will write I equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus, your logic is done. But when it comes to while loop, if you observe here, I given only condition. So that means I'm saying like terminate at 10 level, for example. But where is the increment? Where is the starting point to represent as part of the while loop? Okay. So that means here there is some small tweak will be there available inside the while loop. So if you observe the for loop, if you go to the for loop, so for example, you take an integer value equal to 0, right? So this is the example only almost I given. Maybe 10 I given. So right, what will happen whenever you executed this, run as Java application. So it will print like starting with 1 and value printed like, I mean, you started with 0, no problem. Or if you given 1 also. So started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. The 2 lines is repeated 10 times based on the condition. So here starting value you defined in the for loop here itself. Condition you defined here itself. And increment everything you defined in one line itself. But when it comes to the while loop, I said only condition. But where is the increment and decrement? Where is the starting value? Yes. Sometimes, for example, if you see here, guys, I defined here integer value equal to 1. And I'm trying to use the value variable as part of the for loop. So what's happening here? See the error. Syntax error value plus expected after this token. Something you are not able to use a external variable outside of the for loop. What is the point? Somehow you got a variable, some reason you got a value into this variable, that from there you have to start your loop. And assume this value came from somewhere else. This value came from some other place in the sense some other logic. Okay, some other logic. So you got value like this. Someone else is given a value like this, and from there your for loop has to be executed. Then what is the problem here? It is you cannot use that variable directly here. So you have to define again one more variable, or then you have to define something like you have to initialize again value. See here, the problem, understand the problem in. Now you're given like this, then you define one more variable, and then what? You initialize it, that result, whatever came here, that you given here. So then your for loop will work again. But in the same case, my point here it is, I want the last incremented value also. I want the last incremented value until loop is finished. So by the time loop is finished, I can give you like this. I want the last increment value by the time loop is finished. By the time loop is finished, or I can say like, yeah, by the time loop is finished, I want the last increment value. For example, 10, right? So you are only accessible, if you observe here, I'm accessing what? Value variable outside of the for loop. So where I'm accessing? Outside of for loop. Outside of for loop. So it's all what I'm trying to explain here. It is when you have to go for loop, when you have to go for while loop point of view. So if you know that difference, then concept is done. So what I'm trying to say here it is, this value came from some method. Okay, let's write like this. You know the methods also. Public, integer, get, starting value. Like that. I written a method, and this method is returning always return something like 5. So now this method, so starting value. So, and then I called that method here. So get, maybe it is a non-static, you have to create the object. Otherwise I can create the static. So I'm calling this method here from the main method. So what will happen whenever I call this method will return always 5. So this method is going to return 5. If I given 10, then it will return 10. So for example, assume this is returning 5 now. In this case, what is your intention? You assigned 5 here, 5 less than 10, 6 less than 10, like that. Things will happen and you will see output as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, cool. That is also cool. So starting value is 5 and it is ended with 10. That is also fine. My next point is, whatever the starting value I received here and the number of times the loop is executed, by the time the loop execution is finished based on the condition, whatever the latest increment value of this variable, I want that one also. Is it possible in the for loop? Means no. So that means starting value I received here, and if you see here, I given here, and if you want, you can give here, you can give here and up. So here you are giving like this. So what is the problem here? There are some challenges you are facing. So you are not able to initialize on top of this variable, and this variable is external to the for loop. And at the same time, I want to use this variable outside of the for loop also after some point of time. Once the for loop execution is finished, even I want this value also out of the for loop, I want that value. And at the same time, once the for loop is executed, what the number of times loop is executed, whatever the value of this value, so whatever you are doing, increment or decrement, I want to use outside of the for loop. So then it's not possible with the for loop pointer. The reason is, okay. So the reason is what? Whatever the variable you define here, val or value, whatever it is, this variable comes under the local variable of the for loop. Local variable of for loop. Local variable of for loop. So that means you cannot access the local variable of, what is that variable of for loop is val. Okay, val, something like that, whatever you given. So this is the local variable. So that means you can use this value variable in between these lines only. So you cannot access a local variable what you created inside the for loop or along with the for loop. You cannot access outside of the for loop. See here, if I am trying to access value variable, what compiler is saying is create a local variable. That means simply it is saying like value cannot be resolved to a variable. It is saying like what is this value? Can you tell me? The reason is it's defined inside the for loop. The declaration, defined means declaration, where you created along with the data type, along with the for loop. That means inside the for loop. So the lifetime of this variable is until for loop only. The accessibility of this variable is until for loop only. You cannot access outside of the thing. But my requirement is demanding in this case, I want to take this value as a starting value, which is coming from some method. Point number one. Point, okay, somehow you taken. Point number two, on top of that variable only, I have to do the increment and decrement. Okay, on by using that variable only. So that means my point is by using above variable only, I have to run a logic repeatedly until a condition is satisfied. So by using above variable only, execute logic repeatedly, until a condition is satisfied. Until a condition satisfied. As well as what is my point here? It is I want the last increment or decrement value. I want the last increment decrement value of same variable. So if you are doing increment, or if you are doing decrement, then decrement. So whatever the last value, the increment value will be happen. So I want that variable value. So I want the last increment or decrement value of the same variable outside of the loop also. So that means if value you are able to define outside and you are able to access outside of the for loop, then this statement is resolved. Then there is no issue. This requirement you can implement with the for loop. But the problem with the for loop is, one thing is, if you are initializing this variable like integer and all, you cannot access outside. So when you are not able to access outside means, what is the latest increment value or decrement value of that variable? You don't know that, because you want to use it some other purpose. Whatever the increment is happened, last value of increment or decrement happened, you want to use that value, latest value of that variable, some other purpose you want to use it. So there are some challenges in the for loop. That means when the starting initialization value as well as the result of that increment or decrement value, when you want to use outside of the loop, then for loop is not recommended. For loop is not giving proper solutions. So if you see same problem, if I given same thing in the with respect to the while loop problem, while loop point of view, understand now. So while loop, this is the only difference you will generally understand the for and while. So see here now, same statement I will give again, same method I will write. What I will do, first I will take starting point method. Okay, cool. I will return so this method will return always a starting value dynamically, and then I will take integer starting value equal to, I will call that method, so that I got the starting value. Now, if I am taking for loop, what is the problem? I cannot use this value variable directly. Point number one. If I am taking for loop, so I cannot use directly. You have to initialize again with some other variable. So no, can't use directly above variable. Point number one. The second problem is, even though if you are managing somehow by taking extra variable and you initialize it to this new variable as a starting value, somewhat okay. Maybe you've taken one variable extra help, somewhat okay. But when it comes to the increment and decrement point of view, you are not able to do increment and decrement on this variable. But I want the same variable, whatever I received from other method, should be incremented or decremented. That value, that variable should be actively participated as part of the increment and decrement or as part of the loop execution. That value should take priority with respect to condition, with respect to increment or decrement operation point of view. So that value, that external variable should take the priority. But in for loop, it's not possible. If you take in here, you cannot increment or decrement this value. Okay, that is problem. And second problem is, even whenever you take in the variable, whatever it is, some extra challenges you are having. You have to do a lot of other alternatives, okay, alterations to that. And you cannot access this variable outside of the for loop also, whatever you defined here. So there are a lot of challenges available. With respect to for loop. So that's why in such case, if you are going with the while loop, whenever initialization value, so this is comes under the starting value or initialization value, right? Is external variable, and even you want to use that variable out of the loop, the result out of the loop, we have to use the latest incremented or decrement value. Then we can choose the while loop. So now based on the while loop, what is the syntax I given? Condition. Why condition? While loop will take only condition. So now let's see how I will write down same thing with respect to programming point of view. So while loop, here I will take initialization value. Initialization means from which value you want to start. So initialization variable or value, I can tell you here value. So by using that initialization value, you will apply the condition. You will write some condition by using with that initialization value. So, okay, by using that initialization value, you will write some condition by using this value or whatever it is. And inside at the last line level, okay, we will do increment or decrement. So what we will do? We will do increment or decrement operation. So initialization value variable I'll take here, and based on that initialization value, by using that initialization value variable, you will define the condition. And once you written the logic, whatever has to be executed repeatedly, at last line level, you will do increment or decrement operation of this in this variable. So simply guys, for loop variable starting point, condition point, increment, decrement, everything you defined in one line, single line in a okay, for loop starting value, condition, increment or decrement, you define one after another in the single line itself. But the same thing is divided into three pieces when it comes to while loop. What? Increment, starting value, condition, increment or decrement. So you divide, that is divided into three places. Oh, what happened? So that is divided into three places. So first starting value, okay, and then condition, and then it has to be increment or decrement. These three areas you divided into three places. And in this case, while loop is taking the starting value from the external outside of the while loop. So that you are writing condition and you are doing increment under. Now, whenever this variable is outside of the while loop, you can use even after completion of while loop also, that variable you can access it. So in some other purpose, whatever the logic you are having, the latest value, whatever it is incremented or decremented, that will be available always here, so that you can use that value in some other areas also. Like that, while loop is going to give you some customization with respect to external initialization variables point of view. And whenever you want to use the same variable, whatever the latest increment or decrement value available outside of the loop also, then it's better to choose while loop always. So what is the difference between for and while is? For loop is all about you are just iterating the things Okay, based on initialization, condition and increment, just only logic is executed, and you don't want that resulted incremented decremented value, even the number of times logic is executed. You don't want this increment or decrement value and all, then it's better to go with for loop only. But when you want the latest increment or decrement value outside of the loop also, you have to go with the while loop point of view. So see here now what I will do, while. So I said this is the while loop, and here your condition will come. So what is the condition? What is the requirement? For example, assume print until 100, something like that. Starting value you will get from here, but you have to print always from 100. So that means the condition is what? Until 100. So what you will do? I will define the condition here. It's scattered into 3 places. If it is for loop, you written everything in one place. Starting value less than 100, value equal to value plus 1. So then for loop, and you don't want this value variable outside of the for loop, then no need to go with the while loop. You can use for itself. But when you want outside, then that is the reason of, that is how you have to choose while and for loop generally. So I will write less than or equal to 100. So now see here, I'll write sys out of what? That variable I will take, whatever it is, something like, I'll take like value, meaningful variable name. So that value came from some other method, and then you are checking that value is less than 100 or not, and you are printing. And then what you are doing, see, if you don't, if generally I told here you have to write last line of the, people will write last line generally, even you can write in between also, guys. Okay, in between the logic also, you can increment or decrement this value. But generally people, most of the times, you will do increment or decrement in the last line of the logic as part of the while. So here you will write multiple lines of the logic. So now see, without increment, decrement, I am executing the program. What's happening? Okay, so do one thing. So this, I will fix it. See, that's what, you cannot access the value outside. Yeah, that's fine. Now see here what's happening while loop. Infinite loop. It will execute evening until evening also. So it is keep on executing, guys. If you observing here, it's keep on executing, and see the JVM not yet completed our execution. It's not yet terminated. If you observe here, not yet terminated. It is keep on executing 5 value. So that means infinitely it is executing 5 value. So why? From here, what you got? Value 5. And that 5 is less than or equal to 100. Less than or equal to 100. True. So whenever true, it will enter inside the loop. Whenever false, if it is true, it will enter inside. If it is false, then it will come out from the for loop. But in this case, 5 less than or equal to 100 means true. So the result is true. Result is true means enters inside that. So once the logic is executed, and again what it is doing, it is coming to the condition. It is coming to the condition. So that means, if you see here, it is keep on executing infinite. It entered into infinite mode. The program will execute until your charge in your laptop, the charging is completed. Okay. So it will not terminate. It entered into infinite mode. So how the things are executing in this case? First it got value 5 here. And the taking 5 less than or equal to 100. True. True. Whenever true, enters here. So once the logic is executed, you are not done any increment and decrement. So then what's happening? Simply, it will come here JVM to the condition again. By the time, what is the value of variable? 5 only. 5 less than or equal to 100. 5 less than or equal to 100. Again true. That way, enter again inside that. Executed. Now again it came here. By the time value variable is again 5. 5 less than or equal to 100. True. So enter inside that. Again came here. Again 5 less than or equal to 100. So the reason is you are not done any increment or decrement. Value is always 5 only. So 5 less than or equal to 100. 500. True, 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 true. Now it enter into infinite mode. So that's why you have to be very careful with the while loops when you are writing. If you are not writing properly, then it will enter into infinite modes. Okay. So see here, it is keep on executing. It entered into infinite mode. So let's stop it, terminate the process manually. Okay, fine. Now see here, I will write in a way like value plus plus, value plus plus. So run as Java application. See now, what happened? 5 less than or equal to 100, true, enter, printed. 6, okay, incremented. This time you are doing increment. So the last line you will write, I said you will do increment or decrement, right? So you return 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Every time it's coming here, 10 less than or equal to 100, true, execute. Then 10 plus 1, 11, 11 less than or equal to 100, true, execute. 11 plus 1, 12. Like that, it is keep on executing. It will reach 100, 100 less than or equal to 100, true. Then also it will execute. 100 will be printed here. And then 100 plus 1, 101, 101 less than or equal to 100, false. That means immediately what will happen? JVM will come out from the while. So why? The condition result became false. It will come out from the while. Now, this is the nature of while loop also. But the reason is why you will go the. Now tell me what is the value, what is the output of line number 21 point of view. So what is the output you will see? This out of outside while loop. Now can you tell me what is the value output of the line number 23 or maybe whatever this line? What is the output of this line? Any one of you? Nobody is there. Yes. So that means what is the point you have to understand here? It is 101. So it's incremented, right? 101. So that's what, not 100. So why? 101 by the time it is 101, 101 less than false. So that means why by the time it is leaving the while loop, it is 101. That's why condition became false, then it came outside. So that's why value is 101. So these kind of questions will be asked in interviews. So then they will give, then they will ask what is the output of line number 21. So then you are need some little bit analysis like, okay, whenever it is condition false, 101. So like that, things will come out. Now my statement here it is, what is the difference between while and for loop? If you observe here, when it comes to the way you are writing the program, initialization, condition, increment and decrement, three things in three areas. If it is for loop, three things in the same area. Point number one. Point number two, whatever the variable you taken as a initialization value, as a increment or decrement value, with respect to for loop, generally you cannot access outside of the loops. But I want that value. Some reason I want it. That's all. Maybe that value I want to use in some other logic level. Whatever the latest increment value I want is it some other purpose based on my requirement. Then if it is for loop, you cannot access. But if you see here, the variable itself you declared outside of the while loop. The variable itself declared you outside of the while loop. So that's why you can access that outside of the for loop, while loop also, outside of the loop. So that is the reason when you want this kind of customization, okay, then you will go for the while loop. So the value external variable, whatever has to be participated as along with the condition, along with the increment and decrement, then it's you have to go with the while loop pointer. But it's up to your choice. Whatever is feasible, whatever is comfort, based on that, based on the requirement, you will go for the while and do while. But syntaxes wise, this is how things will come. While will take always only condition. Okay, as a mandatory point of view, condition means true or false. Boolean data, finally you have to pass here. So then increment or decrement, you have to do carefully. For example, if you see here, I'm doing minus minus. What is going to happen, guys? Can you guess and tell me now? What is the output of this program now? What is the output of this program now? Can any one of you guess what is the output of this program? Okay, see here. I'll just tell you. Infinite. Again, infinite loop. So that means what will happen? 5, you will get 5 less than or equal to 100, printed 5. Okay, 5 minus 1. So 5 minus minus, that means 4. 4 less than 100. Yes, true. 3, 2, 1, 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So what will happen? It is going in the backward direction. So entered into infinite loop. Entered into infinite loop. So that means the loop is iterating here itself. In infinite mode, the loop is going to execute. So the reason is you use a less than here. So it's all, that's why I said very carefully. Then the way you are using less than, greater than, the way you are using plus, plus, minus. So if you are doing a lot of practice, then only the relationships you can understand very easily. It looks like simple only, less than, greater than. See, one small mistake is making your program is never ending program. Minus 18,000, minus 22 lakhs, for 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs. So it will keep on execute until your laptop charging is completed. Okay. Or your RAM memory is completed, something like that. And your system will become hanging or whatever it is. So simply it is entered into infinite loop. So terminate it. Now if I given here greater than, what will happen? Yes. 5 minus 4, something like that. Now see what will happen again outside of the file. So what happened? 5 here came, 5 greater than 100, false. That's why it came here. It is immediately leaving the while loop. So these things also they will ask, what is the output of this program? What? One time also while loop is not executed. The reason is you got 5 less than 5 greater than 100. False. Whenever condition is false, I said immediately JVM will leave the while loop. It will come out from the while loop. So that means even 0 times while loop is executed in this case. So the output is outside of the while loop, value is 5 only. Whatever you given, that is what printed here is. Because you given. If you given less than, it is entering into infinite mode. And if you given plus plus, then somewhat logic is good. So in this case, if you given plus plus, what will happen? You given greater than and I given plus plus. Now what is the output means? 5 greater than 100, false. Then also you will see same output. Simply here itself condition becoming false. Now if you given again less than, then yes, this is the good logic. 5 less than, okay. 6, 7, 8, 9. So it is going towards this value. So that's why at one point the value will reach to 100 and beyond the 100 then condition will become false, then it will. So this is the good logic. So they will give wrong programs, wrong conditions, and they will ask you output. That's what That's what I am telling you. It's all depends on the Deepak. Okay. So that's what I told you. This statement I given already. At one point of time, we used to use loops high level before Java 7. There is no other concepts. So I will give you, even until Java 7 point of view also I will tell, majority of the times people will go with the for loop. Majority of the times for loop only, generally we will come to use. And then when you will use to while loop is, that's what I told you. When your requirement is demanding a variable has to use from external of the loop and the same variable you have to use outside of the loop also, then better choice is while loop. But in a regular way, for loop only people will use at majority of the times. Okay, even while also. I said one more also, right? For each also. So once you are understanding the for each also enhanced for loop, that will be called as. So once you are understanding, it's all based on your comfort, based on the requirement, people will choose. It's not like I have to use always only for. You can use this one, you can use this one, you can use this one. Okay, even you can use a do while also. But even nowadays, what happened? Once Java 8 got into popular and Java 8 features are used in every programming nowadays, even Java 17 or Java 20 version. So people started using Stream API. Because of this reason, the writing loops in Java program became very less. The usage of basic looping statements writing in the Java programming nowadays in real time is most of the times reduced. So most of the things are done by the API. Some Stream API is there by using that. So it's all about, depends on the scenario only you have to choose. Okay. So now I'm telling you, with respect to today's market, with respect to current development of any real-time applications, people are using stream API operations to do the whatever you can achieve with the for loop point of view. So the looping, iterating the values from a group of values, whatever it is, that can be done by the stream API itself. So in real-time point of view, people are using nowadays this one along with the arrays and collections API. So that's why the usage of for loops or writing the regular for loop, while loop, do while loops reduced because of the stream API. So one fine day, you will also realize what is the note I given under. Okay, so don't do. Okay, so this is how you can, whenever you want to use external value as a initial starting value, and whenever you want to use external variable as a outside of the, along with the while loop participation, along with the looping participation, then it's better to go with while loop. So that the external variable is participated here, and as well as you can use that external variable outside of the loop also. So that is how you have to take the while loop. So now my point here it is, I'm not explaining much about while. I mean, apart from this, because you know this concept is same, only thing is syntax wise common. So now what I will expect you is take same assignments with respect to while loop also. Whatever the assignments I given yesterday, take with respect to convert write one more time same example, same assignments with the do while loop, sorry, while loop also. Assignments same but with while loop. So then you will realize how you are writing with respect to for loop and while loop point of view, how you are writing the logic. Just do that. Okay, so just do that. Please convert all these assignments again with respect to while loop point of view. Yesterday I told you write with respect to for loop. Today write with the while loop point of view. So that means initialization will come outside, increment or decrement, where you have to do the increment and all, decrement all, and then how will you get all this output also, even this one also, little bit tricky. So I can give you in multiple ways, guys. Even I can give you requirement is print prime numbers in between 1 to 100 or 1 to 1000. So 1 to 1000. One more assignment, and one more requirement is print odd numbers from 500 to 200. So understand the direction also. Okay, please, that is also most important. So requirement print prime numbers are given, odd numbers, even numbers. Okay, if you are good the odd numbers, okay, fine. So similarly, you can identify 5 division values, however I given. If you are writing this, then it's simply like replacing with other value if anything else is asked. Yeah, print 11 divisible values under in between 333 to 999 or 888, whatever it is. So just 11 divisible value. So just take care of all these things. Write on your own. I said already how to write also yesterday. Don't write programming immediately. Understand the problem. Take some okay, some analysis. Do that. Find out the formula inside that. So it's all identifying the formula is more important. So what is the 11 divisible? That means again 11 percentage so and so value. If you are getting remainder as 0, then that is 11 divisible value. If you are not getting, then it is not. So then you have to write if else condition. At the same time, it is the range is big range. So that means when you are having big ranges of values, you cannot write manual logic. It's all, the logic has to be executed repeatedly from 333, 444, like, I mean, 333, 334, 335, 335, something like that. You have to, almost 500 times, you have to repeat the logic. And out of that 500 values, you will pick up only 11 divisible values. So that means you have to do the looping. In this case, the statement you have to understand like, okay, you have to use loop. And as well as whenever you are identifying 11 divisible value, that is what you have to taking into the consideration. So that means if it is not 11 divisible, then that should not be printed. So that means if or else, if else. So the statement is saying if it is divisible by 11, take it. If not, don't take it. So that means if not. So that means you understood like, okay, I have to use if else if. So when you're keep on iterating the logic, keep on iterating the values, in between that, each and every value you will check if value is divided by 11 is giving remainder 0. Then print it. Then print value. So if you are making this kind of pseudo codes, then no need to, if you want to print else, no need to print else also. Simply ignore that value. That means ignore that value. Don't write even else also, write only if condition. So then you written pseudo code for this. Then writing logic is very simple. Now you know how to write for loop, take for loop. In if condition, you know how to write down, and you know what is the remainder also, remainder value. So you know what is the remainder operator also. Now converting this pseudo code, converting this solution, converting this formula into logic is a simple thing. Now a starting person also can write logic for this. But the problem, the genius will, your intelligence will come out right identifying this kind of solutions, what topic has to be used. So generally people used to ask, so we are understanding the problem statements, but we are unable to write down the logic, which concepts we have to use and all, we are not able to understand. So this is how you have to do that. I said what? Between 300 to 800. So that means 500 values around. So that means you have to check each and every value repeatedly. 333 is or not, 34 or not, 35 or not. Like that you have to check until 888. If I given again 4000, then almost 3000, 4000 values. So that means you cannot do manual logic. So that means you want to check each and every value in between this range. Each and every time you have to check. That means loop repeatedly. Repeatedly in the sense looping concept. Okay, which loop you will use and all, that's a secondary choice. That's a secondary thing you will do. First you decided like, okay, let's use the looping statement to iterate all the value one by one. And that too, starting value is 33. That is what. So next, you have to do what? Find out 11 divisible values. So how do you say that 11 divisible value? So whenever the value is divided by 11, if you got remainder as 0, then that value is only 11 divisible value. So that is what you have to print it. So that means to know whether the remainder value is 0 or not, you know the operator. So that means you understood the operators, remainder operator. So that means percentage operator. You will use percentage operator. So what it will give, it will. And whenever it is 11 divided by value, so that means 11 divided by each and every value, whatever you are iterating here, 333, okay. So whatever the value it is, 334, 335, something like that, etc., etc. So if it is divisible, then that you have to print it. Okay, if it is right, okay, maybe I'm saying, then print it. If it is not, don't print, not print. So if it is true, that means if that remainder came true, then that should be printed. If it is, so your explanation itself giving if, so that means you can use the if statement. So then you decided like, okay, let's use if statement. Here it is. So let's use, so you have to form a condition. What is that condition? 11 percentage value. The value means these are values one by one. So you are writing inside the loop. So value will change every time. 333, 4 like that. And percentage equal to G. So you are checking, sorry, not percentage. You are checking the remainder value. Again, what operator you used? Double equals. So why you will use double equals? So you are using one more operator called as, to compare the data, I said double equals you have to use. Double equal to. So then you return like this. And again, whenever it became true, that has to be printed. So if it is true, then that has to be printed. So that means I will write this condition in the if statement. So to write the conditions, you have if statements. So then you decided like, okay, to define this condition, let me write down the if condition. So this is how you have to break the requirement, guys. When you are in the starting position of learning programming language, you have to break the require. See, one line statement, but that one line is involving lot of concepts. So you have to break your analysis, you have to make analysis, and you have to break it into multiple pieces. Okay, just do the postmortem to this requirement, what and all is involving in this concept. If you are thinking in such a way, Then if I given this solution to, okay, people who is just started learning Java and he knows only how to write down loop and operator, he can write down the things. Now by following this analysis, he will write down. It's not easy. Now, okay, he understood like, okay, let's write down the loop. So out of loop, which is comfortable for you. So based on the requirement, you are saying I given starting value, ending value very clearly. So then that to forward direction. So then better to go with for loop. So like that. Better to go with for loop. So loop you identified, operators you identified, condition also you identified. Now it's all about writing the logic. So first statement is you have to iterate one by one. So that's why write down the for loop. Starting value, ending value, condition. So 333 starting value, and then you are, I mean, I'm not taking the variable, simply I'm saying. So the value less than or equal to something like 4000. Then we are moving in the forward direction. So value plus plus. That's all. Then inside that, whatever it is, percentage like this, value equal to 0, that you have to print. So that means if equal to 0, then print it. SOP. SOP of value. Then your logic is done. So your requirement is done. So see 3 lines of logic, but when you are making this kind of things, you use a double equal to, you use a remainder, you use less than or equal to, plus plus, unary operator, relational operators. Okay, so arithmetic operator, relational operators, unary operators, everything is involved in one single requirement. If statement for loop. So in small statement, these many topics are involved. Okay, so please make sure, because yesterday also I spoke to a couple of students in first, okay, like in offline, and they used to say same thing, sir, we are able to understand the problem statement, but we are not able to put it into programming. How to put it up? So if you are following this kind of approach for few days, breaking that requirement into multiple, I mean, first identify what are the concepts you have to involve from the Java to achieve that requirement. So take the range. Whenever it is a range, loops. Checking each and every value. Each and every means loop. Checking means condition. What check? 11 divisible. Divisible means how do you know whether it is a divisible or not? Based on the remainder value. So exact divisible values. So then remainder means operator percentage. So if it is percentage operator, and based on that, if it is became 0, then you will take. Became 0 means condition. If it is 0, if it is not 0. Two things are there. So that means condition, if else condition. So such a way you have to understand the statements, and you have to break it into analysis and make these kind of things for few days, or until you are getting comfort. Then writing logic is nothing, man. Once you are good with this kind of analysis, logic anyone can write. So that's what, if you are observing movies or whatever it is, identifying formula is more important. Once your formula is identified, if you are sharing that formula to someone else, everyone will follow that formula, and they will write the logic. So for example, you know that PTR by 100, something like that, we will have identifying the EMI values, all these things. But to define that formula will take longer time. Once you given, so for example, if you see, you know EMIs, right? We will convert our purchases into EMIs, monthly EMIs, every month installment. But what is the formula? Have you ever tried EMI formula? So if you see here, this is the EMI formula. So identifying this formula will take months and months to get proper things and all. But after that, taking this formula and based on that, writing the logic, everyone can do that. For that, there is no genius required. But identifying this formula is more important to get the exact EMI value. Principal interest, rate of interest, okay, number of months or years or whatever it is. So they given power n by divided by 1 plus or something like that. So the identifying formula, making analysis and bringing out the formula is most important thing as part of any programming language. After that, writing logic, anyone can do that. Just the only thing is apply the syntaxes, and that's all. You have to do that. So please improve your knowledge like that. Apart from that, there is no shortcuts. Until and unless you are not doing analysis, the more analysis you have to do, as well as convert that analysis into practice. So until and unless you are not doing these things on daily basis, you will never ever get the programming knowledge in a practical oriented point of view. Okay, cool. So now let's move to the do while also. So we are going bit slow, not bit slow, but I'm giving a lot of real-time information and how to make sure the things. Okay. So the third one is do while. So there is a small difference available from while to do while. So what is the difference we have to understand? The remaining rest is common. Like whatever we discussed in the while loop, the rest is common. There is a small difference will be available in between while and do while. So that difference I'll explain you see here. Yeah. So it is just similar to 19 more than 90% is similar to while loop only. While loop functionality only. While loop functionality. So what is the syntax I given for the while loop? This is what. Right? Yes. Okay. So when it comes to do while, I will give you the syntax here. The condition do is the keyword comes in this case. So do is a keyword. So do is a keyword given by the Java language. So if you see here, starting up do while loop and logic, whatever, but while you given condition here it is. You given while condition here it is. So this is the point of do while syntax, but what is the point difference, practical difference between do and while and do while? Let's understand. Okay. Very rare case you will use do while in your real time applications. Very rare case. Okay. So I said already, right? Even if you are going with for loop will have more priority. Generally, people will use comfort with the for and while, and then very rare case you will use do while also. Okay. So even there is one more called as for each also. So I'll introduce for each later. So this is how the hierarchy will come. But even nowadays I said right, stream API and all. That's the difference. Now see the do while practical point of view. So earlier I said while. Now I said do while. So what is the meaning of do? First of all, English meaning is, so the English meaning of do is, I mean in our dictionary meaning is what? Performing some action. Performing an action. Something you have to do it. So that is what the meaning of do it. Do. Right? So the main difference between while and do while here it is. Yeah. See here. While loop will be executed after condition evaluation every time. Yes, obviously true, right? So while loop will be executed after condition evaluation every time. So my point here it is, if you go to the while loop, what's happening in this case? You got the value 5 and you're checking like 5 less than 100. So condition is here you define the condition. So in this case, you define the condition. So once the condition result is true, then it is entering into the while loop. If the condition result is false, then it is leaving the while loop. Right? So that means whenever the JVM comes to the while loop line number 13 level, it will immediately goes to the condition and then it will check the condition based on the condition result only. It will enter into while loop or it will leave the while loop. So if it is true, it will enter. It will, if it is not true, it will leave the while loop and it will execute the remaining logic. So for that is the reason. For example, if you given greater than, what will happen in this case? 5 value coming here. 5 greater than 100. What happened? 5 greater than 100 means false. 5 greater than 100 equal to false. So whenever false, what happened in this case? This logic is not executing. If you see here, yeah, if you see here, run as Java application. Outside of the while loop, it doesn't enter into while loop. Why? The condition result is became false. But when it comes to do while, when it comes to do while. So that means if you are decoding this words, what you are telling to the JVM is, what this do while statement is saying is, first to do means execute the logic. Execute logic. Logic means what? This is, guys, inside whatever the curly braces do while loop point of view, that is what the point you have to understand. It's not like entire logic, entire main method logic, or wherever you written it's not like that. Logic means what you written inside this body. I can write to that one also. First execute loop logic. Loop logic or body. First execute. So that what you are trying to say with the do is, do saying like first to do it, first execute the logic. After that, apply the condition. Apply the condition. So that means in this case, what while loop is saying, when it comes to while loop is saying like, so in this case, while loop, what it is saying, apply, execute the logic after condition evaluation. While, okay, first, so that means if I am decoding like, apply condition first, and if condition result is true, then execute the logic. If condition result is false, leave the loop. That means just go end of the while loop and execute the other logic. Leave the loop. But in this case, what do while is saying, first execute the logic. After that, apply the condition. So after that, apply the condition means now condition result is true. Then again, what will happen here? It will execute the loop. Now condition result became false. Then it will leave the loop. So that means what is the point you understood from here? It is, when it comes to while and do while loop body will be executed must and should minimum one time. Okay, there is a guarantee always 100% minimum one time do while loop will be executed. Why? You are telling like first execute the logic. You are telling to the JVM once it is reaching to the do while loop. You are telling to the JVM first execute the logic whatever I written inside the body. You are telling that. So then JVM entering into that body, it is executed all the logic. And then at last you given the condition. So then it is checking the condition result true or false. At last. Now for example, condition result is true. What will happen? It will enter again into the loop. Now again this will be executed. Now condition verified. Again true. Then again it will enter here it again. So but what you have to understand is, for the first time itself, it entered directly into the logic level. After that it is checking condition. If based on the condition result it is entering into true. If it is true, entering into the loop. For example, condition result became false, then immediately it is not executing it is not entering that loop and it is executing outside of the logic of the do while. So that's why minimum one time logic will be executed. There is a guarantee of minimum one time logic execution if you are applying the do while. But while point of view, what you are telling, you are saying like whenever JVM reaches to the while loop, you are telling like you written condition at line number 1 itself with respect to while loop statement, where you written in the line number 1 itself you given condition. That means you are telling to the JVM, hey JVM, first check my condition. If condition is satisfied, enter. If condition is not satisfied, exit. That is what you are telling. First step itself you are doing. But in the do while, what you are doing based on this, okay, syntax, if you observe now observe the syntax. As part of the do while, what you are saying, JVM comes here. Are you applying any condition here? No, you are not given any condition to the JVM. Applied any condition? No condition. So then what JVM is doing? JVM blindly entering into this logic is executed. Now at last of the do while, do logic, here you given the condition. Now what JVM will do is it will apply the condition result true or false. Whatever the condition, true or false. If it is true, again it will go here. If it is true, again go here. If it is true, again it will go here. For example, the condition result became false, then it will execute the rest of the logic. So it is just leaving the do. So that's why do while loop level, the logic will be executed minimum once. 100% logic will be executed minimum once. While loop point of view, probability is 0. But do while point of view, probability is minimum one time is guaranteed. Minimum one time. But while loop point of view, 0. Minimum probability is 0. So when condition result is became false, immediately it is executing. But here in this case, first it is entering that. So now your question is, when this kind of logics will come generally? So when this kind of logics will be coming generally. So that's what I told you. Very, very rare case you will get this kind of requirements. Best example for do while is, for example, the requirement is demanding like this. You have to execute a logic, and from that logic you are going to get a value. So what is that is? The requirement is demanding like this. See, just requirement point of view, you have to choose which one is suitable. So your requirement is saying you will have some data. Okay, take that data, apply some logic, apply that logic, apply some logic, write some logic or apply some logic on top of that data. That data in the sense values, some values. And finally you will get some result. After applying some that logics, after doing some operations, assume you got a result value. And now the same process is repeated, whatever I said before that. Now the same process is repeated again and again based on result value and some condition on that and some condition on that and some condition on that. So like that your requirement. So what it is saying, first take the data, apply logic, some result will come. On top of that result value, check the some condition. So that means based on this, apply the condition now. Apply the condition. So your requirement is demanding like on this result value, apply the condition. And once the condition result is true, again repeat the same process. Okay. So by taking the new value, once the condition is true, again apply the same process. Again condition result is true, again apply the same process. If condition result is false, then you are saying like don't execute this thing. But for the first time to execute this condition to get the result value, for the first time, you are not applying any condition here. You are simply applying the logic, then you are getting the result. At last, you are applying the condition. At last, you are applying the condition based on the condition true. Again, you are giving him one more chance. We are giving one more chance. If condition result is false, you are not giving one more chance. Now, for example, if it is while loop, you are making condition here and then you are telling all this thing. Condition first place itself, if it is while loop. Okay, so that is how the difference between while and do while will happen. So in interviews, they will ask you, what is the guarantee of do while loop executed how many times? You can say like minimum one time will be 100% guarantee. For example, if you see here, 0 times while loop is executed. Run as Java application, how many times? 0. It's not entered here. So that's why no value is printed. Even if you see here, sys out of inside loop body. Okay, so see here 0%. The probability is 0 in this case. Maybe if condition applying first time itself, condition result true, then it will enter. But the probability is sometimes false also. So that means 0%. The minimum number of times executed is the probability is 0%. Okay, sometimes 0% is guaranteed. So, but if you return same thing with respect to do while point of view. Now see the same logic. I'll remove all this. Now what I said, as part of the do come here and while come here, semicolon. So this is what you are doing. Now what will happen? Your condition is, in earlier point of view, 5 greater than 100 false only. That's why nothing is happened. It's not entered into the loop and nothing is happened. Simply it printed outside of the loop logic. This line is printed. But see now, the guarantee same logic. Only thing is I written in the do while format. Data is same and everything is same. Only thing is I written in the do while format. Now in this case, what JVM will do is, whenever you executed your Java program, so in the value equal to 5, okay, then JVM comes here. You are telling to the JVM, hey JVM, do it, please do it. That means immediately JVM entering here, this line is printed, value 5 is printed. So inside the loop, value 5 is printed, then it comes here. What is the value? 5 plus plus. That means now ultimately value is becoming 5 plus 1 equal to 6 and 6 greater than or equal to 100. What condition result is false. Whenever condition result is false, I said, then it will come out from the do while also. Condition result is false. So then this line will be printed. So that means now you will see outside of the loop. So now what is the output of this program is inside loop, value 5, outside of loop. So 3 lines are printed. But if you are going with the earlier only while loop point of view, what happened? Here itself, JVM, you are telling to the JVM in the step number 1 itself, hey man, please check the condition. If it is true, then only enter here. If it is not true, don't enter. So that's why if it became false, it is executed. But in this case, even the condition result became false, you applied given in the condition in the last line. So by the time already one time body is executed. So that's why do while point of view, minimum one time is guaranteed. So execute it. Inside loop, 5 outside of the loop. So if you are applying while again, in place of here, execute, run as Java application outside loop. So that is the difference between do while and point of view. So your requirement is demanding the logic has to be executed minimum once. Then after logic execution only, every time condition should be evaluated. So simple guys. Now I can decode like this. We can decode like this. If it is while, what it is saying, logic should be executed before after condition check only. After condition check only. If it is do while, what it is saying, logic should be executed before condition check. Logic should be executed before condition check. So logic will execute and then condition will apply. If condition result is false, then it will come out. But in while point of view, after condition check, logic will be executed based on the result. So you guys are clear now? I'll ask ChatGPT. Even I'm very rare case, guys. Even my life also, I don't think in last 12 years I used do while. I don't think, I never remember. Very, very rare case. I'll ask ChatGPT best example for do while in Java. So this is how you have to use the ChatGPT. Don't afraid. Use the ChatGPT to improve your knowledge. What is saying a do while loop. This is we also knows that regardless of the condition, it will execute one and all. Oh, okay. See, they are checking just whether it is a positive number or not. So that means you entered a number. I mean, I'll explain the scanner after the looping statements, guys. Okay. So what is the scanner? We will see after the looping. Taking input from the keyboard dynamically. This concept I'll explain after the looping. Maybe probably tomorrow. I mean, next class, day after tomorrow, I'll explain because we are having one more concept, branching statements, right? After that, I will explain. So what is scanner and all, you will come to know that within 1 or 2 classes. Fine. So it's simple. Taking input from the keyboard. Instead of we are giving like number equal to 10 minus 10 like that, we are taking data from the keyboard dynamically. That I will explain. So what they are doing, they are taking a number, then they are just reading that number. They are checking if it is greater than 0, positive. And then something like that, they are doing the not equal. Even it's not that looking good. They given. Please provide a best example of real-time scenarios where I can use do while loop. Okay, wherever it is, whatever the language it is, it doesn't matter. Concept is user input validation. Yeah, so that means that's what they are trying to say. First, you have to validate the data. If everything is good, then you will go for the condition point of view. So they are saying like enter your age, taking the age is less than 0, then you are printing that age. If it is not, then okay, until and unless he is giving correct value, that is what it is happening here. It is. For example, assume you want to allow a person under age 18. So now you are asking the person, give me your age. He entered 10 years, 11, okay, 15 years. Then you are checking he is greater than 15 or not. So first you are saying like, okay, your age is 15, I'm checking, and then you are checking. False. Then you are saying like your age is 17, 15, you are out of the race. Now a person entered, again you are asking like that, something like that. Retry logics in the networks. Okay, so that's what I told you. Very rare case things, these things will come. Retry. Whenever you want to retry the same thing with respect to network failures, this is all about. So then number of attempts you want to do that and all. Very rare case, don't worry. Only the thing is in interviews or in programs, how they will ask is they will give this one and same thing they will give and they will ask you what is the output of this one. So if you are feeling like you are applying the condition first 5 greater than 100 false and you return, you are saying like outside while loop is the output, you're wrong. So you should know one point is first one time executed, then condition. While is first condition, then logic. So you should remember that point. Okay. So with this, we are done with the looping statements for while, do while. I have enhanced for loop. I'll explain that after the arrays concept. You cannot understand right now that those things will be used only along with the arrays collections and all. Then I will explain it. And then tomorrow, not tomorrow, we don't have a class on behalf of Diwali as a festival day. So enjoy your festival. And on next day, we will have a class. Like 31st is holiday as a Diwali, right? Yeah, first Friday we will have class and Saturday. Now Friday onwards, as usual, Friday we will have a class. On Friday, I will explain branching statements. It's just take half an hour time or 40 minutes of time. Okay, and then we will move to the other concepts. Even I will explain scanner. I will make a note. It's a very small topic, but still I'll explain it. Let me make a note right now itself, otherwise I'll forget. Small topics, scanner class. Yeah, scanner, I'll do that. Okay, this is enough. Okay, so I'll explain Friday. We'll connect on Friday again. So please practice and please follow this kind of approaches to improve your coding knowledge, to improve your analysis knowledge. Don't say like, sir, I'm not getting how to write a Java program. No, you will never ever get, not only you, not only me. Anyone, if you take in this world, no one will get knowledge directly writing the programs like this. Everyone thought process, when you are applying your thought process, when you are making things into pieces and understanding what are the concepts, understand the statement, understand what are the concepts involved inside that requirement. First, identify the concepts and make that concepts in an order, which concept you have to use and which inside which concept you have to use. Make that kind of analysis for few days. Then go for the last step is writing the logic. Before that, you have to do so many things: identifying the concepts, identifying the operators, identifying the formula behind that requirement, solution behind that requirement. So those things you are doing, then you will become expert. So apply this, then only you will become knowledge. For example, even if you take in my case also, when I joined Java language in 2011, okay, so even I used to surprise, like why people are writing semicolons, at what level they are writing semicolons, at what level they are not writing semicolons. That is also confusion for me. Even I understood why people are using integer, why and all, what is the local variable. So there are a lot of confusions. It took almost 1 year, 1.5 years to get comfort on the Java language. So, but I did a lot of practice by understanding the things in a practical point of view. I understood. I used to do a lot of. I used to study generally book theory point of view. Theory means some not a PDF books I used to study to understand that concept, how it is functioning, how it is happening, and all. So that means I'll try to enhance my analysis always instead of thinking about the writing logic. So that is how slowly I improved the things. It took almost one year to 1.5 years to get comfort on the Java language. It's not 1 month or 1 day. So everyone's situation is same when you are in the starting position. If you are taking my case also, I am also like you only. But only thing is your practice and your analysis, the way you are thinking, the way you are segregating the things with respect to requirement and then converting that into programming is going to make you proficient in the programming language. Just follow better approaches and you enhance your skills. That's all I can tell you. So when we have SQL training, Deepak, I'll just announce maybe by next week. Generally, I'll run on weekends. I'll make sure this after Diwali. So I'll give you dates on the next week. Okay. So I'll find out timing and I'll give you. I'll start. Even I thought of processing it. So probably we'll start after 1 week. Okay. Yeah. Thanks to everyone. Let's connect on Friday. Happy Diwali to everyone.